So our new story begins with Professor Yakutani. He's a genius when it comes to chemist who has been into his research to save people's lives from deadly diseases. Yakutani majored in chemicals and drug because he saw his little sister die from tumor, so he promised himself that he would find a cure for diseases like this one. But in his regret he overworked himself and died, but he woke up in another world in a body of a 10-year-old boy named Pharma. A maid named Charlotte told him to take it easy because Pharma had been struck by lightning, but Yakutani couldn't believe he was in a completely different world. He was confused and pretended to have lost his memories, but first he wanted to remove bandages first, but Charlotte saw Pharma had the stigma on his both arms. Charlotte thought it was the holy mark of God Prometheus and began to offer her prayers, but Pharma wanted to know about himself first. So Charlotte told him about his noble lineage from the Archduke's family, which is the great house that has a long history of being pharmaceutics. His father is the Archduke of the kingdom named Bruno, and all the family members have the blessings of the divine arts, but for Yakutani this was new. So Charlotte was afraid that Pharma would have forgotten even his divine techniques, which could result in Pharma being kicked out of the noble household. So Pharma tried to perform his divine art with his chemical knowledge to make water, and burst out a big wave of water, but aside from that, he discovered he could make substance with his right hand and eliminate with his left hand, so from the next day on, Pharma goes back to his classes with his teacher Elena. She goes through 5 types of elemental knowledge, but Pharma asked about the creation of substance, and Elena told him that only a god or a demon has that kind of power, so after that, she took Pharma for divine arts practice, but Pharma forgot his wand at home, so Elena brings out that staff she had, and showed how to control the divine arts to make a water spear. So Pharma did the same, but he did not use the incantation and yet he made a huge wave of water spear. Elena was surprised by his power, so she tried to measure Pharma's divine power, but it broke the measuring device itself. Elena was surprised to see his overpower, plus she saw Pharma got the holy mark of healing god, so she told Pharma to keep this a secret even from his family. Elena was surprised through and through, but while they were resting, Pharma told her to make loops with her finger which could help her bad eyesight, but there, Pharma discovered another one of his abilities, the ability to see through any injury, which he thought was a divine art. But Elena got scared because Pharma was standing in daylight but had no shadow, which scared the crap out of her. So she decided to run away, and from then on she dropped out of her job as Pharma's teacher with the excuse of being ill, so Bruno told Pharma to prepare a medicine for Elena and deliver it to her. But Elena comes out with the full gear because of her fear of Pharma. She thought Pharma wanted to kill her, but he promises it's nothing like that, he gives the medicine. But Elena thought Pharma wanted to poison her, so she promises her lips will never speak out his secret, but still, Pharma told Elena that he doesn't mean any harm to her, and asked her to treat him the same, he just wants to learn divine arts, but if she doesn't want to continue. Pharma respected her decision and gave her a bouquet of her favorite flowers as a thanks for teaching him this far. So from the next day on, Elena showed up to continue her job as a teacher to teach Pharma in divine arts. She took him to a deserted island because Pharma has too much divine power and taught him everything about divine arts, so when he returned, Pharma used his divine eye to see through all the servants' injury and disease to make medicine for all of them. All the staff were too moved by Pharma's kind heart, which surprised Pharma because he thought he was just helping out his servants, so Charlotte told him that nobles are not obliged to help their servants. And the medicine nobles make is quite expensive, so comers could never hope to get that. This class system irritated Pharma because he had values from the modern era, but then his little sister, Blanche, developed chickenpox, a dangerous disease if not cured, and in this era there was no medicine for this disease. So Bruno had isolated Blanche for 3 weeks because chickenpox usually gets better in that time, normally, but if not, it could kill a patient. So Pharma uses his power of creation to produce many chemicals to make medicine for Blanche and sneaks into her room to give her the remedy. But Pharma asked Blanche to promise not to tell anyone that Pharma gave her the medicine, and after some time, Blanche recovered completely, so Pharma made a microscope of the old age for himself, for the study and identify the disease, but Bruno called out Pharma and told him to be ready to depart to the royal castle, because the queen's health was declining. So Pharma accompanied Bruno to see the queen. Pharma saw they were making decisions on fortune telling to see if the queen would survive. Even so, Bruno made a potion for the queen to inhale for easy breathing, and word of the queen's death was circulating throughout the court. Pharma couldn't see this any longer and saw that queen has tuberculosis, he knew the way to make the queen better is to take things into his own hands. And there her son ran in to stay by his mother's side, seeing that Pharma made his decision and told Queen Elizabeth that he has a way to save her life. Bruno became enraged at Pharma for making things up, but Elizabeth orders Bruno to let him speak. Pharma promised to make a medicine for her and Queen allowed him to do whatever he wanted. He jammed the door with ice so that Bruno wouldn't interfere with his work, but Bruno broke the door and came in thinking Pharma was making this up. Bruno thinks there is no way to cure tuberculosis. Even though Pharma wanted to make this because Bruno was infected as well, but Bruno gets even more angry and tears out Pharma's notes. Without a choice, Pharma made an ice wall without a wand. And Bruno saw the holy mark and thought Panithius blessed Pharma with his wisdom, so Pharma goes along with that and made up he got enlightenment when he was stuck with lightning. So Bruno decided to hold back and let him do his job, so after a while, Pharma came out with the cure for the queen. But first he showed the microorganisms to the queen which infected her with disease, and later showed it to the entire court, informing everyone about the microorganisms, which are bacteria, and how they were the cause of the queen's disease, so he gave the cure to the queen and drank the other half of the medicine to ensure its effectiveness. So, from that day forward, Pharma continues to check on Elizabeth's health, but before going in, Noah told Pharma that the queen is thinking of rewarding him for saving her life. And Noah thought Pharma could ask for money or property, but Pharma had dreamed of opening his own pharmacy, a simple wish, so he goes to the queen for her daily checkup. But in their conversation Elizabeth opened up about her feeling that her subject might think she's no longer needed, so Pharma told her to remember who needed her even when she was sick. It reminded her of her son, so Pharma told her that there are also others who needs their queen to take care of them. It touched Queen's heart and Pharma ends their meeting there. After that day, Queen gets back to her full health and threw out ceremony to honor Pharma with his reward. Elizabeth honored Pharma with the Royal Pharmaceutics title and announced that Pharma will have a big pharmaceutical shop in the city. The construction planning began from the next day. And Elena came to Pharma's side to assist him in designing the shop. After a few months, Pharma casually thought of naming his shop the Parallel World Pharmacy. And a worker heard and made the board of that name. Then, a local guild leader of Pharmaceutics guild named Varen comes there. He looked down on Pharma as a kid for trying to run the medicine job. But Pharma didn't give in for his provocative demeanor. Varen thought Pharma would sell his medicine for a high rate because he's a noble. But Pharma assured him that the price would be genuine and that even commoners would be able to afford it, which irritated Varen. But Elena gets dangerous to fend Varen of. Then soon after that, the shop was all ready to open, but they still needed a trustworthy person for the accounting. But as Pharma returned home with that problem, he saw Cedric was about to retire. He had problems in his knees and Pharma took this opportunity to get him on his side. He asked his father to fix Cedric's problems, and in exchange, Pharma wants Cedric to work on his shop. Bruno told Pharma to go ahead because Cedric is already retired, so he's free, and with that, Pharma healed Cedric's knees and successfully opened his shop and announced the opening to the public. However, a noble running a shop, can it be successful in business? Find out in the second part, and until then, subscribe to the channel to get the latest updates on the next part of this anime. So take care.